Howdy folks, back to another video in my 5-year reflection series. I think this is video number 3, where I go back and kind of reflect on things I've learned and things I wish I would have caught on to earlier as a newer player. I want to share those things as I go back and listen to some of my old videos and recordings of other new players. My more experienced banjo ears now catch on to things and like, oh, wait a minute, that does not sound right, or that does not sound good. And today we're talking about string bends. Okay, the biggest thing with string bending is most new players don't bend the string far enough. Okay, probably the first place you get into is the Ralph Stanley choke here at the 10th fret, or you hear it on Foggy Mountain Breakdown, and you listen to a newer player and it sounds like this. It's kind of just wiggling it instead of. Okay, so when you bend that string, you're bending all the way up to the next note. Okay, so it's full bend. The other thing is most of the time you're actually bending that string and pushing it into the next string. So when I'm bending that second string, I'm actually touching that third string. So don't be afraid to do that. Okay, because most of the time you're not having to play that third string, so you don't have to worry about causing a dead note on that. So that's one place. Another place is when you start all of the bluesy string bends, right? And once again, most of the time you're doing full bends or full chokes, if you will. They're called chokes as well. Ocean of Diamonds, you're doing something like I'm not going to drag this one out. It's just you need to be aware when you do those string bends, you really need to bend that string probably farther than what you think's comfortable or feels good to start with. Okay, you're actually pushing it into the next string. Okay, other issue I wanted to bring up is string, your action, your string gauges, those kind of things. For some banjos, if it depends on what kind of banjo it is, what kind of strings you've got on, the chokes are really hard to do. So I think all new players kind of experiment a little bit with banjo setup and string gauges and those things like that. The best thing you can do is make sure you get a good banjo and that's properly set up. And we'll start talking about lots of money there sometimes. So you want to get whatever, as much banjo as you can afford. And you want to have it well set up by a professional if possible, if you have access to that. And then you start playing around with string gauges. Most professionals tend to have gauges that are on the lighter side. J.D. Crowe, Jim Mills, they're super light. They got 9.5s, and then this is what I have on here, 9.5s. And then I've got an 11 for the second string, 12 for the third string, and then 20 for the fourth string, which is really super light. And another issue when you first start trying those out is you might start having buzzes, but also it's just everything feels so loose. So you kind of have to adapt your playing, and it's kind of like you're using a little bit different stabilizing muscles in your fingers, if you will. You got to be careful not to slide all over the fingerboard with that, but it makes these kind of chokes and bends and pedal steel kind of things much easier. So experiment around with that a little bit, and that'll give you a little more freedom there. You want to be able to do those easily without having other issues you've got to hunt down. Okay, so I'm going to leave that, and then next time we'll come back and talk about something else. Trying to think of what else we can cover. I don't know. I got one or two other things floating around in my head. See you next time.